March, let me know when we are ready to start.
Sure, Dubin. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining with us today. So today our speaker is Mr. Dumidu Temakon, Head of Business, General Manager, appiGo. So he will be talking about how to run a successful restaurant business. So over to you, Dumidu.
Thanks, Master. Welcome, everyone. I'll quickly give a quick background to myself so that all of you are aware the content shared and all that comes with experience. So before appiGo, I was at HSBC. Before HSBC, for about 8 years, I was with John Keels, specifically with John Keels Hotels. So I did multiple roles with actually John Keys Hotels, that's Cinnamon and Chaya Hotels at the time. So, in terms of auditing, brand development, quality assurance, so multiple roles. And when I left John Keys, I was heading the research and consumer insight unit. So, a lot of the things that will be shared today, the basis is like all the research knowledge we had on how to run restaurants, because John Keys Hotel is still like very good in terms of the F&B offering. Hotels in general is good. So that's a very quick background. I think we can start. Yasmin, will you be able to share the slides? Let's set up some ground rules. Please feel free to ask any questions any time. Uh, or even like you can send like a chat message as a question if you have any. Right, let's start. I hope all of you can see the screen. Yasmin, can you go on the presentation?
Is it visible to you?
No. Still we see all the slides.
No.
No.
Manipulation.
Yeah, okay. So today's webinar and the discussion is about how to run a successful restaurant business. And we'll be sharing tips, tricks that has worked in the past or that is working out already. Everyone's aware of like the current context of economy. But like I hope these will be like timeless kind of tips you can utilize whether you are aspiring to have a restaurant business or whether you already have an existing restaurant business. So let's move. Let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So I wanted us to actually establish this before we go in and talk about what a successful restaurant would look like. I want to share some thoughts about what a bad restaurant would look like. So starting off with cleanliness. Cleanliness is the absolute ground zero. A restaurant running 101 is cleanliness. If your restaurant is not clean, specifically if your kitchen is not clean, that means you have a long way to go in terms of running a successful restaurant business. That means what it means is very simple. You need to have a lot of built-in discipline and processes to run a kitchen that's spotless. If you can't run a kitchen that's spotless, then like a lot of trouble will be awaiting in terms of hygiene, in terms of standards, in terms of food safety, so on. Number two is value for money. So if it's a badly done restaurant, your customers always feel like we've been ripped off. It doesn't talk about like a price point. It talks about the value it generates. So, for example, you take Royal Thai for an example. That's at Cinema Lakeside. Uh, I have never seen like people complain about like price being too high. I myself feel like it's like reasonably priced, because it brings in like a lot of things. Like you get excellent food, you get like a very good ambience, uh, privacy that you need. Like it's not loud, so on. So value for money is a concept like beyond price. Price is a key element. So, but for badly run restaurants, if you look at Google reviews, Facebook reviews, whatever the review sites, you will always see this comment coming in: "We've been ripped off. It was not worth it," so on. So that's a good indicator. Number three is rude staff. If your staff is snapping at people for whatever the reason, sometimes mind you customers deserve that as well. There are like absolutely horrible customers, then you need to again manage it separately. But if the comment rude stuff is coming up like time and time again in your customer reviews, so on, that's an indication for a badly run restaurant. Number four is slow service. That means like a patron comes in and they have to wait 15, 20 minutes just to get the menu, or just for someone to come and say hello and offer the menu or offer seating. That's a good indication to say that there are deeper problems in that restaurant. So if I'm a patron and I wait for 20 minutes and nobody comes in, I will stay away from that restaurant, because if that is the treatment for order taking, you can only imagine how your kitchen is run and how your supply chain is run and so on. Next one is bad food quality. We are in restaurant business for good food. So if a particular restaurant has comments food is not tasty, food is bland, undercooked, overcooked, so that means it's not very well run. That means again the issue might be deep rooted in terms of your first of all skill of the chefs, cooks. More importantly, what is the process you follow, and noisy or uncomfortable atmosphere. So if it's noisy, so I I'm planning to cover some tricks on atmosphere, like with what kind of food, what kind of music will go on. I'll be not sharing that, but there is always a science like that. So you can always do that research, or get help on that area, like with a consultant. Those consultants are very expensive, because I remember when I was working for John Keel's Hotels, we got a person down. I don't know how impactful that was, but that's when I realized there's science to it. So with a very quick background research, like a desk research, all of you should be able to get that knowledge. That is for let's say you won't be playing hard rock music for a classic North Indian kind of cuisine. So it doesn't go hand in hand. So likewise, I think that pairing is important. So these are indications for a badly run restaurant. So if your restaurant has any of these, some of these, that means it's time for a overhaul, and you need to think through, because it's not like hiring, firing people. I think you need to look through whether I have the right people, first of all, whether I have the right processes for these people to get depth and start running it nicely, whether I have the right equipment and systems so that people are made the full use of it, and the time is used efficiently, so on. So there are many things to think about if you feel like, yes, I have some of these indicators. Okay, next slide. Right. So for a restaurant business, if you already have one, it's great. If you are planning to have one, you always start with the concept. What is this idea? Is it like a differentiated, like a burger restaurant, or is it a pub, like a classic English pub, or is it like a fine dining restaurant where it's very exclusive service and products, the quality of it, all that is different, or is it like a fast food chain? So you need to decide on what you want as a concept. If not, what happens is we see this a lot of the time, like the concept is not clear, and as restaurant owners, like the the trial and error takes over sometimes, and like you try to be like many things to like a lot of people, and then like you basically lose your identity. So it's always good to like define the concept. With that concept, what comes is you will determine a target market. You will know like this is the kind of market we are going after, and then it's easier to do marketing on that. Like your whole thought process starts from that. The menu will complement your concept. Pricing will complement the concept. Like the pricing of fine dining restaurant is completely different to a fast food chain. So then the deco, like I said, the marketing strategy. So everything will like stem from your concept, even your service style, even how you train your staff. So it's important to get this clarified. Where I am, what is the kind of like segment I'm serving. Right, next slide. All right, so starting a restaurant business is obviously it's more than like having great food and customer service. And I just brought in a stat. This was maybe outdated, maybe about 3-4 years. But like 3-4 years, during 3-4 years, a lot of things happened to Sri Lanka. But back in like 2018, the stat was so many restaurants pop up. And thousands of restaurants in Colombo, in suburbs, like so in the tourist zones and so on. But only 60% of them remained after the first year. Only 40% of them remained after the first year, and after like 3 years, it was only like 20%. That means it's not easy to like stay on, because like so the reason is nothing else but it goes to planning and your execution. So if you feel like you have a great concept, that I'm very like emotional about it, I'm very passionate about it, I believe in this, and you go ahead and you invest your money and you start doing it, but you didn't have the right processes, right checklists, right people running it, then like it's a bit of a recipe for disaster. So while your concept is great, like the passion is there, I think we need to back it up with like what exactly is needed to run a solid organization. It's a machine, like a well-oiled machine. How do we build that machine? But at the forefront is like a great food experience. But to bring that up, it's a lot of work of like like I said, the processes and planning and budgeting and cost controls and all that. So I can't talk enough about cost controls, because cost control should be like the key person in a restaurant business, because food cost is the main cost. If you discount like a depreciation and all that, because restaurant equipment is very kitchen equipment specifically is very expensive, but food cost is your main cost. So if you can't control that, like you lose the game. Yeah, so I brought in today 10 tips for starting and running a great restaurant. So let's see if it's helpful, and like let's see where we can like what we can build from there. So okay, let's go to the next one. First tip is capital. This is an easy one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. So you'll have to ensure that you have enough capital, at least to run for about 12 months. There's a tip I want to share, that is 12 months is like a rule of thumb or like a best practice. Depending on your risk appetite, that means like how much of risk you want to take. You can have like cash at hand for like to run 3 months, but after 3 months you expect like all your plans come through, and like you will start hitting the targets that you wanted to hit, and that's fine. And that again, there are more variables at play, like how fresh is your concept, how great is your location, like so certain locations you don't need anything else, like location will serve you and like get you money. So if you like struck gold like that, then it's a problem, then you don't need to plan for 12 months. So some of these are best practices, and like there are many variables at play. So you will have to apply it to your concept and your context and see whether it's applicable to me and how far it's applicable. Okay, next tip. Second tip is obviously location. Right. So like I said, if you have a great location, um, for example, let's say 98 acres in Ella, ideally located, and like there are no competition. That's a hotel though, not a restaurant per se, but there is no other competition, and like ideally located, it's very difficult to beat. Or like Tea Trails, that's another hotel chain. They're like these colonial bungalows, estate bungalows owned by Dilma. That those locations are like unbeatable. So even if it like minimum other facilities, you can with the location itself you can score. So that's like the scenery and like the background. Apart from that, when you are establishing like your new restaurant, or if you already have one, you need to see uh, the the factors are like is this place accessible? Is there sufficient parking? Is the visibility clear? What is the potential traffic and competition and proximity for it? For example, I can give an example of like location. So if any one of you are living like down Nigambu Road, there are certain stretches of the Nigambu Road like when traffic is there, crossing over to the other side is very difficult. So if you have a great restaurant like that goes like against the traffic, you're not going to get like great sales. That's a lot of the restaurants are located like when you go from Colombo to Nigambo on that side. Why? Because like in the evening that's the route people take to go home, not the other side. So these are some of the things like sometimes as business owners we tend to overlook. It's like okay, what's the location? It's like Nigambo Road, right on the Nigambo Road side, but we don't consider like is it like towards like Colombo side, Nigambo side, like what is that best kind of location for me? Is there enough parking for it? So obviously you can discount like so you can be located on the other, like you can be located against the traffic, but if your concept is extremely fresh and like your customer reviews are like over the top, your service is extremely good, so you can obviously overcome. There's no like denying that, but location will give you an advantage. So especially if you're considering like a new location, please do have a kind of a checklist. Location evaluation we tend to overlook, and even like big brands suffer heavily when they get the location wrong. Next one. Number 3 is business planning. Again, I'm not planning to spend like a lot of time here. Only thing I want to highlight is that a business plan will give you clarity. Because like I said, when we are starting a business, we are all passionate and we believe in it. We are emotional about it. But a business plan will tell you exactly like how many sales are we expecting. If we are to break even, how many sales do we have to do? What is going to be our average ticket size, so on. So against this, you can measure everything on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, so that you know whether you're hitting your targets or not. Apart from that, if you're expecting financing from a bank or even like from a investor, you need to have a business plan. Any investor will be looking at the business plan before they invest. So how sound your business plan will determine like what kind of funding you're going to get. So this is an important element if you're looking at that angle. If you're like bootstrapping, that is like you invest your own money and you want to do that, then like whether you have a sound business plan or not, like financing will not be affected, but your operations will be affected. So best tip I can give you is that like if you're great at business planning, that's really good, like more power to you. But if you feel like you're not really good at business planning, but you have an idea that's a winner, you want to convert that into a business plan, you ask for help. There'll be like so many companies who can do this for you, not a lot of cost, but what that will be saving for you will be like significant. I'll give you an example. It's like if you want to do like there's a tax issue going on like right now in Sri Lanka. If you're paying income tax, rather than going through the income tax code and all that, it's very easy to like outsource that. There are tax firms who will do that for you. they will like take care of it. What that does is like that will take away like a big headache and a pain point for you. So consider outsourcing for like some of the specialized areas. Next one. Yeah, service. I think in this webinar, probably the most important thing should be about service, because this is how a restaurant business can stand out. This is how you can make your customers come back. So loyalty, repeat customer behavior, everything's built through service. And obviously, like let's say, food quality and taste of the food is a given. If you have like bad food, like it's bland, people are going to not only dissatisfied, they are going to complain. That is even like worse than like a dissatisfied customer is a complaining customer. So apart from that, let's say you have like like a great kitchen, and like they produce the best kind of food. How you take it to the next level is with your service. So there are a couple of elements to service in terms of like I brought in this example saying, as a business owner, I think you should do what we call like customer touch point analysis, or like a guest trail analysis. That is, what are the touch points where customer is impacted when they walk in, or like even before they walk in. If you're doing any marketing activities, like that is the first touch point. That's how probably they get to know your product. Maybe they get to know your restaurant through another friend, through recommendation. That's the best form of marketing, actually. So, touch point number one. Touch point number two, when they actually come into the restaurant, your parking. If your security guard is grumpy all the time, and he's going to turn away like more customers than your food, or like anything else. So it's important for you to like give some kind of training to the guy, saying that like be pleasant. So likewise, like when you do all the guest trail, you need to see, how do I reduce friction, or like how do I create like a memorable experience in not everything, in some of it. Because all you need to create is like one or two memorable experience in the whole trail for it to be a fantastic experience. But you can't drop the ball in other touch points as well. Yeah, so I want to share this like five-star tip. Five-star tip meaning like five-star restaurants used to do this. That is, let's say this is like a low-hanging fruit, very easy to do. That is like, let's say a family walks in, let's say family of 4. You want to make it a memorable experience for these people. The best way to do that is use focus on the kids. How do we do that? Let's say the order is placed, and like your staff should be trained to look at these touch points. They should be looking at like how do I create like a memorable experience for this family. Very easy. Let's say you overhear something that the parents are saying. Let's say the child is asking for like fresh milk or something like that. You can offer that. It's not going to, I know like right now a liter of fresh milk will cost you about 450, 500 rupees. But to offer a class and win that loyalty and win that recommendation, I think that's a easy cost benefit analysis. Or like that's why a lot of restaurants give like soft toys away and things like that. But you don't need to give any like freebies, because it dilutes the whole experience. But with your service, for example, your order taker can ask for customizations, saying that like you can see like for kids, should we do like less spicy or something like that. At least like the parents will not take that in that way, but they will appreciate the thought. So these are like very easy to do things, but goes a long way. Or like many restaurants offer, for example, chutneys at Cinnamon Grand. When you finish a meal, they give like refreshments like mint and like different like chewable things, so that like your mouth is fresh, and like it's given free of charge. They don't expect anything in return for that. Small things, but done thoughtfully, and that is the important thing, done thoughtfully. If we become all mechanical about it, and if we like go through like a cookie cutter, people tend to like sense that. They be like, okay, they're giving this, like there's no thought in it. But if you really like thought through and like do that activity with the intention, then you're going to get that response as well. So in terms of service, yeah, I can go into more details based on the like we'll have a quick Q&A session as well. So all I have to say is like service is what we call is not hygiene need. Like when I shared what a bad restaurant would look like, there's slow service and there is rude service. Highlights two essential things. One, slow service meaning efficiency. How efficient are your processes? How efficient is your staff? What is the turnaround time? How fast you can go and like offer the menu and get the order? On the other hand, how can you train your staff in a way they are not rude or they are not intrusive, and your customers feel like these guys are like polite and like they are very pleasant? Two business people come for like a business discussion, and they're in a like a heated business discussion. Will you barge in and ask like are you ready to order? Like, do you do that? Or like how do you build that element into your staff is the most important thing. So when it comes to your restaurant staff, like easy tip, another tip: don't hire cheap. If you hire cheap, that's you're going you're going to bring your own brand down. Invest that money in like good people. Invest in systems so that you can release these good people to do their thing. A lot of the time what happens is like restaurants are run like especially during rush hours, it's very chaotic. So waiters are trying to like get the order, run to the kitchen to do all these like functional things that is non-value adding to the customer, or it's not going to create a memorable experience for the customer. You're going to meet those hygiene needs. Because most of the time what happens is person comes in and waits for like 15-20 minutes, even more, just to get the menu offered. Right, so service is definitely a game changer. It can be a deal breaker when it goes down. That's why people complain. So service is not something like, okay, I'll give you a hygiene factor example: cleanliness. If like if food, let's say food is being brought and that plate is not being washed, or there are like like old food particles in that plate, people are going to complain because they expect a clean plate. If you clean your plate like using the most expensive items, people are not going to rave about like okay, my plate was clean. They're never going to rave about like a clean plate. But if it's not clean, they're going to complain about it. So that is a classic, what we call a hygiene factor. But service is not like that. If your service is slow, if your service is rude, people are going to complain. That is the hygiene element of service. But if you go out of your way and create a great experience for the customer, they are going to rave about your business. That's why service is not a purely hygiene need. So you need to have, if you have great service, you're going to have great customer reviews. As simple as that. So let's go to the next one. Standards. So standard is something like a lot of, let's say, standalone restaurant tend to ignore, but it's very, very important. For example, I mean, this is not rocket science. These are like very basic things, but a lot of like, let's say you take any 5-star restaurant, you would have heard about like Michelin star kind of restaurants. All they do is they operate on checklist. They have a checklist for every single thing, like kitchen cleanliness, product standards, service standards, so on. So about like food order pickup, what the tip I want to share was like, if you take any 5-star restaurant and its kitchen, during the food pickup area, that means like, the kitchen staff will prepare the food, restaurant staff, that is waiters, will come and pick up the food and go and offer to the customers. In this order pickup area, all different types of dishes that this restaurant serves is printed in color, and it's displayed so everyone can see. So more advanced restaurants use like displays, like digital displays, or like basically all the restaurants use these colored prints. What it does is when the cook finishes the dish, they need to do the garnishing and the right kind of finish. They can do a quick comparison between the picture and what they have created. If it's not good enough, they can't send it. Then when it comes to pick the order, they can also do the same comparison with the standard of the picture and what the cook has created. And if there is a mismatch, they don't take it. Then it has to be recooked, and then there is a delay, like a food delay. Then you have to go and inform the customer about the delay, or you need to give something on the house so that customer is not satisfied, but dissatisfied. So likewise, it's very important. But what I want to ask you is that in your restaurants, do you practice that? If you're practicing that, it's great. If you're not practicing, it's a very it's a low hanging fruit. You can do it within within an hour. Then you need to establish a set of SOPs, standard operating procedures on how to run the restaurant. Break the restaurant down to kitchen area, restaurant area, then break it down to products, cleanliness, so on. Again, there are companies who does this for you. They already have if you are to run a restaurant, what are the checklists you need to have? They will come and observe your restaurant, and they will do the customized job even. So I can share a sample checklist. I think it's in the next slide, just for you to get an understanding about when it comes to if the heading is cleanliness, what are the areas that's looked at in one of those checklists. The checklists are so if you check how to run a restaurant, maybe the checklist is 200 lines, but I just brought in few so that you can get an idea. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so when it comes to restaurant cleanliness, starting with restaurant walls, clean and free of stains. Restaurant cutlery and crockery, linen, floor, ceiling, AC vents, glassware, any chemical toxic materials that you use for cleaning, so on. So basically, if you take the restaurant area, everything's been taken care of. Walls has been looked at, cutlery and crockery, linen, floor, ceiling, AC vents, glassware, the works. Only thing that's not covered in this checklist is the equipment, because there is a different checklist for equipment. Where the equipment is clean, whether there are damages, whether the table is wobbly, so on. So these are not again expensive. If you don't have these in place, I suggest you have them, because it's very easy. If you want to go for a lot of restaurants would have these HACCP and ISO 22000 and different kind of certifications. So the starting point is you have an operating system that is your standards. You call it standards, SOPs, whatever you call it. If you don't have them develop them. If you need help to do that, ask for that help. So again, that's another tip I gave earlier as well. Sometimes if you don't have the capabilities built in-house, it's easy to outsource and get that. And then you slowly build that capability in-house as well. Okay, next one. Yeah, next up, I think we have a small promotional video, because this is a company promotion. You guys are not compelled to watch it, but this is about appiGo and how we try to solve and what we want to bring to the table in terms of next stage of restaurant management. So let's just quickly watch this. It'll just take a minute.
At a busy time, are your customers having problems making an order? Are your customers worn out from waiting for their order to be taken by the waiter? What if your customer's order could be displayed at the kitchen without an order taker? Introducing Sri Lanka's #1 restaurant management app, where you can easily control all of your restaurant operations with a single click. Allow your customers to scan the QR code to have their order served in just 3 simple simple steps. Scan the QR code provided at the table to give the menu, and then place the order by adding as many of your preferred items to the cart. And finally, check out by using a card or simply by paying the cashier. The restaurant will have complete control over the action of the orders through the business management app. The restaurant will receive orders from the table once the payment has been made by the customer. Once the order is received, it will be accepted at the kitchen for preparation and followed by completing the order, which is then ready to be served. With the business management app, you can now explore the endless possibilities and also enjoy loaded features as restaurant order, such as receive orders instantly right from the table, keep track of your sales you make using a real-time analytical dashboard, keep track of your stocks on a daily basis, and remove or embed your menu of your product details right away. Use the app to provide discounts to your special customers and enjoy many more other features with the Business Manager app. Contact us today to get your very own restaurant management app on 0115 337 337.
Thanks everyone for watching that. And I'll again just take a minute to explain about those solutions. appiGo is a software development firm. What we do is software development, and we are specialized in like restaurant-related software, and that's what we have brought in. For a complete restaurant management system, what you get is you get a fantastic customer experience because customers can just scan a QR code and start ordering. They don't need to wait for a order taker to come in. You get a lot of operational efficiencies because your staff is now free to take free from order taking and delivering KOTs to the kitchen. Enhanced service, again, your staff can now focus on what is most important for your customers rather than just doing the operational mundane activities. In terms of analytics and reports, like you get all the customer information, the order information as well. So if you want to run email campaigns, SMS campaigns, so on, you have a great database. Because chances are a lot of the customers who visit your patronize your restaurant are repeaters. If you don't have a system, you can't catch that. Transparency and convenience. If you're a restaurant owner, you will be given this restaurant management app where you can see what's exactly happening in the restaurant in terms of orders, order acceptance, so on, from your fingertips by using your mobile. Yeah, so what you get is like a best-in-class table ordering system. We call it digital dining. You will get on top of that your own restaurant brand and website. If you don't have a website, you will be given that as part of the whole thing. A functional POS, if you're already paying for a POS like a significant amount, you can actually replace that POS. But I have to say, this is not like a sophisticated POS. It's a functional POS, but specializations will be in like digital dining and the website. Dedicated RM for your business. If you have problems, they will be there to sort it out. There's always a person who's talking to you. Real-time analytics, updated menus, prices. You can do anything real-time because these are online systems. So that's the full time I'm going to take about talking about our solutions. We can go back to our tips and tricks. We can go to the next tip on how to run a successful restaurant business. Yeah, so tip number 7. Okay, I think we missed one slide. Yasmin, I think we missed the slide on menus. No, go back. Yeah, just stop that. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, Dimitra, can say.
Right, excellent. So tip number 6 is about the menu. So many times we have seen like very complicated menus when the menu is given, it's like a newspaper. You look for appetizers, you look for mains, you look for like there's different rice section, there's different chicken section, and like under rice section there's fried rice, under chicken section there's chicken fried rice, so on. Like it's really complicated, and usually what people does is they ask the, if there's order taker, they ask the order taker like only one other like what do you recommend. Then like the waiter will try to like push whatever like a slow moving item or something like that. So it's not a like a excellent experience if the menu is very complicated. So I think you need to cover as a restaurant owner. I think there are tendencies to have like an extensive menu. I don't think extensive menu is the way to go. You need a good enough menu so that like you don't turn off certain patrons with diet like specific dietary needs or specific cuisine requirements or whatever. Again, it depends on what kind of concept you have. Based on that concept, you will have your cuisine defined and its environment and atmosphere and all that. But you need to have a uncomplicated, simplified menu. So if you're a let's say a comfort food kind of restaurant, it has to be like very very simple. You can have varieties. So the tip is straightforward. The tip is, why do you have to print a newspaper? Why not make it online? Why not make it digital? A digital menu is a great menu because why? Because you can customize it. Printed the menu so the waiter will have to go and say these items are not available. In a digital menu, all you have to do is you go to the back end and do you deactivate what you don't have. So yeah, it's a straightforward thing, but it's an important item, menu. If it's too complicated, it's going to it creates friction in that guest touch point. So what we touched earlier. So you need to really look at how do I make it like a smooth, frictionless experience for the customer. It might not be a memorable one. It might be a memorable one if it's if the food is presented as like holograms and they can see the right proportion and all that. It's different, very like a niche kind of market. So I'm not going to talk about that. But this is a low hanging fruit. You can make it. Even if you want to print something uncomplicated, or have a variety, or so what it does is it will definitely help you in your financial side also, because it will result in less wastage. If you have an extensive menu, you need to carry mise en place and you need to carry supplies for all that. So it makes sense to go for a cleaned up, simplified, but a great menu. A great menu is you have great food with great quality and cooked to perfection. Right. Let me stop sharing.
I'll share the screen.
Yes. Yeah, so tip number 7 is on pricing. Pricing is sometimes we are not. I mean, a lot of the restaurants are not doing pricing in a scientific manner. So, sorry, I have listed down some factors you need to look at in terms of pricing. One of the key things is food cost. Let's say you're a burger joint, you sell fantastic burgers, and if you don't know the cost of a burger, it's a very long road ahead for you. I'll tell you that. So you need to know okay, what's the cost of a burger? You know the burger bun. You need to know the cost of the burger patty, lettuce, whatever that goes in it, cheese and mayo and all that. What is the cost of the electricity that goes in? So you have a all around thing to say okay, this is the cost of a burger. Then portion size. If you give like a jumbo burger versus like a regular burger, obviously you need burger. One will be like priced differently to the other. Quality of ingredients. So, like let's say if it's a beef burger and like you bring down Australian beef, it's going to be more pricey because obviously the quality of the ingredient is better, and people will not have a problem paying for that as long as you make them understand that this is the ingredient that goes in, and competitive pricing. If you have another burger joint, like you can do that competitive analysis. Like it has to be like on equal grounds. If you are a really differentiated, awesome product, and there's a street burger joint, like like a burger cart or whatever, like you shouldn't be doing that comparison. However, it might be your competition because, like for a potential customer, those are like two burger options. So it's important that so in terms of marketing and that side of things, how do you differentiate and how do you position yourself as like this awesome burger joint, like what exactly you're going to get by coming to your burger joint, rather than like walking across the street to the street like burger cart. Right. So in terms of pricing, it's an easy tip for me. The tip is control the cost. Pricing is about like for a restaurant business about cost control. So I think I mentioned like very earlier in the discussion also the importance of a cost controller. As a business owner, as a restaurant owner, you have to be the cost controller. If you don't play that role, like you would wonder like what happened to the money we make. So be scientific in pricing. It's not, I mean, it's definitely not rocket science. It's very easy to do because unless you have like a very special product, it's the pricing range sorry about that. I'm under the weather a little bit. Yeah. So if you build that differentiation, you will be able to charge a premium as well. I've seen that, but the downside of it is like a lot of the time when people complain about like you got ripped off by this restaurant, that's a sign of a bad restaurant. That means that they have not built the differentiation. They have gone for higher pricing, but like it's the value was not delivered. So how do you measure that? Is that you need to pay very keen attention to customer reviews. Customers talk about it. Only like disgruntled customers talk about it. Only like the studies say like less than 10% of your customers actually leave a review. That means those reviews are extremely biased, guys. I think that's an important thing for you to note, because we try to treat all reviews as same. No, like a very small portion of your total market comments, but their comments are read by like majority of your population. Because of that, it's an important aspect of the game. Right, so we'll come to reviews separately. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, marketing plan. So you have a great concept. You build an awesome restaurant. Your staff is excellent, and your food is like out of this world. If you can't market it properly, again, you're going to have slow growth. That's what you're going to have. But if you can market it very well, you're going to have like extremely good growth. So this relates to growth. Even without a marketing plan, guys, you can do very well. It's just that like the rate of success will be little bit slower than with a good marketing plan. What exactly that is? So how do you want to be seen? How do you want to position? What do you want people to talk about your brand and your products? I think all those are like elements of that. Again, if you're not so good at marketing planning, identify action points, agreeing on KPIs, measuring KPIs, get it outsourced. There'll be companies who wants to do that, who can do it, who has done it for so many people. So you have to do like a very quick research to understand whether you're going to the right place to get it done. Once that's done, like if you have the expertise, like by all means do that. If you don't have the expertise, please get help, because it's going to benefit you. But marketing is all about like it's like a magnifier. It will show what you have. It will magnify what you have. So if you have good stuff, it will magnify your good stuff. If you have bad stuff, it will definitely magnify the bad stuff as well. So it's important to have a like a really good marketing plan, well defined marketing plan, and with monitoring and KPI driven, that approach we call, I mean, in our business we call it growth hacking. So that's what you need. Next tip. Yeah, next tip is cost control. Like I said, most restaurants start off with like a great concept and like food is good, everything's great, but they're losing money. They're not profitable. Why? Because they have not looked at the cost. They have not looked at wastage. The biggest cost of a restaurant is food cost. The biggest cost of or biggest portion of food cost is sometimes wastage. This I've seen. I've done studies on like 5-star restaurants when they are not profitable. A key thing is that like you have a way too complicated menu, so you have to carry all the supplies and like some items don't move. In restaurants, you talk about like most of the items are perishables, so you can't keep stuff forever. If you're a nicely run, like very well run restaurant, you will not obviously like you're governed by certain principles and standards. So when like food is cooked again, like I mean, if perishable, like certain perishables can like last for 3 days, once you cook them, like it's like same day or you have to dump them. So it's very important for cost controlling and analytics. How do you anticipate like next day, tomorrow's tomorrow's traffic? If you can't do that, then like you're like game is going to be very tough. At least to like 70-75% accuracy, you need to like guesstimate that. So how do you do that? Again, you look at the data, numbers, what's going on, what kind of day tomorrow. Is it weekday, weekend? Is it like a POA day, after a POA day? Is it closer to the salary, like after the salary, not close to salary? So like and obviously depending on your customer segments, let's say your target audience is like family or a family restaurant, like right after salary you will probably get like more sales. But like the week right before the salary, you will that's like kind of like the dry a week for you. So you need to like see whether your supplies and stocks have been like maintained at the right levels. So the cost controlling and like supply efficiencies are like a really good area. If you guys are not experts in that area, again my suggestion is get help. But it's never too late to like there are so many free courses available in all these areas, whether it's like Coursera or like whether it's like LinkedIn Learning or whatever. So when you have time, like just look at it. So it will make the difference between like you being profitable in like 3 months versus you being profitable in like 1 year. So do not but do not overlook this. And like like I suggested, as business owners, you should be the cost controller. Unless you have like multiple restaurant, multiple businesses, you can't do that. But hire a talent that's a really good talent, and like empower that person but to look into the efficiencies and cost controlling. Right, and we go to the last tip. Yeah, cleanliness. I think we have already covered the importance of cleanliness. Like I said, anyone comes to a restaurant, like it's food related, right? Anyone finding like a strand of hair in their plate, that's going to like that's going to be a major complaint. Anyone's going to find an insect in the plate, that's going to be a major complaint. It's a health and safety hazard as well. So like I said, I started off the discussion showing you guys like what a badly run restaurant would look like. Number one is it's not clean. So if your restaurant is not clean, that means it's deep rooted. You need to go back to the basics. You need to have your right checklists and train the people in the right way. Penalize the people if they try to go back. So there's a change management element also. But if you are like new, or like your restaurant is already well run, establish those processes. Cleanliness is a key hygiene factor, because if your restaurant is clean and spotless, nobody's going to talk about it saying like I'm going to go back to that place because it's like clean. But if it's not clean, they're not going to come back. So I think most of the five-star restaurants, what they do is they get these health checks done uh, for the staff, and there's like it's an annual thing. It's not going to cost you like a lot of money. Maybe it'll cost a little bit of money because there are like some tests that they need to do because they're food servers. Again, if you're thinking about like having ISO 22000 or like HACCP and like certifications like that, you need to have these recorded. So it's an area. It's a very important area. I can't stress enough for any restaurant, any hotel. If you're not clean, you're not going to be in business for very long. If you're clean, like great, you have a good base, very good base, and then you can your great food, your great service, your great location, ambience, all that will come in, and you will be unstoppable. But getting cleanliness right is not easy. So these are the tips and tricks I wanted to share, the 10 tips on how to run a successful restaurant business. I can answer some questions as well if you have any. So that's it from me. Feel free to send. I mean, you can unmute and ask your questions, or you can type it in the chat and send as well.
Dumidu, we have one question. It's from Fazil. So he's asking, how can we find a good place for a restaurant?
Yeah. Firstly, again, I think it's not very direct. How can we find a good place for a restaurant will depend on like what is your concept. I'll tell you why. There's a Let's say you want to have like a fast food restaurant. People come to fast food restaurant thinking about efficiency, how fast I can get it like out, and like the taste and all that is like very hygiene, because if it's not tasty, they're not going to come again, and they're going to complain saying, oh, I got ripped off. But if you're like a fine dining restaurant, they don't come thinking about efficiency. They come thinking about how do I like have a very soulful evening. So things that soulful is not efficient. I think that has to be established. If it's like top of the range, like Michelin star kind of restaurant, they're not going to be efficient. They're going to have standards saying that like your appetizer will be served within 15 minutes. They will serve it within 15 minutes. But when you go to like a fast food restaurant, your food is given like within 5 minutes. You like order like it's drive through, right? So you won't have drive through in a like a fine dining restaurant. So likewise, it depends on your concept. Once you find your concept, then like I think I discussed about some factors you need to focus on when before you confirm that location. Is it with the traffic, against the traffic? How convenient for people to find your location? Is it like like a by road? Is it in the main road? People don't mind going to the by road if there's like ample parking and the environment is safe. So if you, I mean, obviously, like if it's like situated in a main road and the parking is great and area is secured and all that, that's fantastic. But like that's not the only thing. So you can go back to those factors to say like what kind of traffic, is it accessible, is it visible, uh, so on. So like that's how you, I mean, you have a scientific approach for it. and then that's how you confirm a good place. So firstly, I assume that you what you intended was like, the question was location. If I didn't understand correctly, please clarify. Yasmin, can you go back to the location slide so that it will be clear? It's the second thing. Any other questions?
That's it, too.
Right, excellent. So I think these slides will be shared with all of you, and like feel free to ask us any further clarifications uh, as well. So even if you have like a problem or I'll be very happy to answer some of those questions as well. Some of you, I think, joined late as well. We would have gone through some of the material, but the slide should be very self-explanatory, but it won't capture some of the tips we have given, during the session. But Yasmin, can we share a recording as well with the participants?
Sure, we can share.
Right, excellent. All right, so sounds good. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks guys for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dumdu.